Tonight we continue the traditions of the Academy. The Academy dates back to the time of Plato in about 400 BC, or 2,400 years ago. Unfortunately, it was the 1500s before people said that this even existed. Now, I'm not one for happy stories, but I'll use this one for a minute or two. When we discuss the Academy, it is not Plato's garden where learning took place. It is the historic structure that we are a part of, a group of scholars who devote their time to the beauty of knowledge and ensuring the continuation of that knowledge. With about 1% of the population having a terminal or doctorate degree. Within any discipline, it is like playing intellectual 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. When we collaborate, we can't help but run into others who have attended the same institution or been faculty members with us or taught us. We are this way because in about the year 1000, what we recognize as the university became part of Western culture. A place of learning where young, promising youth would go and become apprenticed to a professor to earn a baccalaureate, master's, or with the highest level of attainment, a doctoral degree, allowing the student to go out and become a professor in his own right. Sorry, ladies, the zeitgeist is very strong on this one. Back in the year 1000, ladies were not allowed. But for over a millennia, we have upheld the traditions of the Academy, even if some of the romance is completely made up, like the fact that we have a hard time verifying that Plato's teacher Socrates even existed. Tonight we celebrate the accomplishments of these fine students of Wingate University. Realize that only about 7% of Americans hold a master's degree. And we have verified these students have completed their degrees. It isn't their imagination. They have worked hard enough to earn the recognition they receive tonight. The hood is part of the academic regalia that dates back to the Middle Ages. Like the shape of the sleeve on the robes that separates a master's graduate from a doctoral graduate, so does the shape of the hood. The color on the rim represents the discipline, and the colors inside recognize the institution awarding the recognition. Tonight, you will see a lot of sky blue representing education, a relatively new branch of psychology. Although when the split occurred is not clear. That's why I like my deep philosophy blue. Philosophy is one of the oldest disciplines, and even Socrates recognized it. Well, if he even existed. For you guests, this sounds like a comedy routine. However, for our graduates, it is a skill they have honed, the investigation of traditional beliefs to discern the difference between truth and the enemy. The enemy being widely held beliefs that are not true or may even hide the truth. We, the faculty, have worked hard to help our master's students become knowledgeable technicians in assisting to identify and uncover truth, and our doctoral students to be the discoverers of new truths as yet unknown in our discipline. As you'll hear tonight, we are proud of our students and their current accomplishments and those we have yet to dream. As part of honoring these students who will receive their diplomas on Saturday morning, we honor our academic tradition. These students have been tutored under an advisor during their tenure in our care. Tonight, the advisors of their program of study will place master's hoods on the program completers in our master's programs. The chair of the doctoral committee will place the hood on the student who has completed the doctoral degree. This is highly meaningful in that once the hood is bestowed, the chair is no longer the advisor of the student. They will have become peers. It is part of the tradition of the Academy that we honor not just our biological or nurturing family, but also our academic family. We maintain the history of our academic forebears through our doctoral chairs. Having been trained as a natural scientist first, I maintain the wisdom passed down to me of an academic great-grandfather who was a physicist. It shapes my research and in teaching and in education to this day. Do not forget the wisdom of your academic ancestors. Is their legacy living in you? At this time, I would like to call forward Dr. Cindy Compton and Dr. Ed Davis to present awards to two of our doctoral graduates.
The Wingate University School of Graduate Education faculty and staff are starting a new tradition this year. This is the inaugural year for an award for the capstone with the most potential to effect significant change in improving the lives of students in K-12 education while they're in school and as they enter the workforce. This year, we are honoring two students whose capstones have that potential. Our first award winner has served in several leadership roles in our state and continues to lead important initiatives. One such initiative was described in the Wall Street Journal as having the logistical challenges of bringing people together, issues such as keeping everyone up to speed on developments and addressing differences of opinion. This graduate identified and explored the conditions by which a group of philanthropists and key decision makers in a large urban school district forged a partnership called Project Lift. Unfortunately, our first award winner could not be here this evening, but I'd like to congratulate Dr. Denise Watts.
Thank you, Dr. Compton, for those comments, and congratulations to all the graduates and folks that are receiving add-on licensure tonight. I know it's the end of a long road for you, many of you, and we congratulate all of you. I have the distinct honor and pleasure of recognizing our second doctoral student for an outstanding capstone. This particular student was a delight to work with from the first time I met them. Had them in class and also served as the chair. This particular capstone project has a tremendous potential to impact education in the state of South Carolina, as well as education throughout this region and this nation. It's my distinct pleasure to present our second outstanding capstone to Dr. Tammy Hale for her. Come forward, Tammy. The title of Tammy's capstone was the High School Diploma, an investigation into student and employer perspectives of its preparation for success in the workplace. Congratulations again, Tammy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased and very honored to have the opportunity to introduce our featured speaker for tonight's hooding ceremony, Dr. Carrie Tolbert of Mooresville, North Carolina. And I'm just as pleased to mention that after Dr. Tolbert received her baccalaureate degree from Meredith College and her master's degree from Gardner-Webb, she saw the light and she enrolled here at Wingate, where she received her doctoral degree in educational leadership in 2011. And building upon her Wingate doctoral degree, within 3 years, Dr. Tolbert was selected as the State of North Carolina Principal of the Year in 2014. She received this distinction in recognition of her outstanding academic leadership and her vision for incorporating the use of technology into her students' learning process, as well as into her school's culture. But enough from me. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the North Carolina Principal of the Year, Dr. Carrie Tolbert.
Good evening. Let's try that one more time. I know y'all are excited to get your stuff tonight. So good evening. That's more like it. I'm thrilled to see some of my colleagues and former students in the crowd and just friends that I've been able to meet throughout the last few years. So it is such an honor to be with all of you here tonight, as well as the faculty members that taught me so much during my education at Wingate. So I'd like to share some famous words with you this evening about leadership. And I promise there's a specific reason beyond just being the cool thing to do when you speak at a graduation event. So I have 3 quotes for you, and I want you to listen very closely to them. They're all about leadership, my favorite topic. A leader is someone who sets aside a personal agenda and embraces a greater agenda of serving others. The goal of leadership is other people's success. The second one. My definition of leadership is communicating to people their worth and potential so clearly that they are inspired to see it in themselves. The third one. The task of leadership is not to put greatness into humanity, but to elicit it, for the greatness is already there. So what does all this mean besides being fun and cool quotes? So take each definition to the educators in the audience, and I want you to substitute the word teacher or educator for leader. Would the definitions still make sense? Let me read them one more time for you, but I want you to make that mental substitution. I'll use the word teacher being comprehensive of what we're all doing here, because whether we are principals or assistant principals or we work in central office, we're still teaching. A teacher is someone who sets aside a personal agenda and embraces a greater agenda of serving others. The goal of teaching is other people's success. Does that make sense? Second one, my definition of teaching is communicating to people their worth and potential so clearly that they are inspired to see it in themselves. Does that make sense? Just give me a head nod so I know you're still awake over there. Okay, good. All right, then the task of teaching is not to put greatness into humanity, but to elicit it, for the greatness is already there. Does that make sense? Awesome. Then we all did our job tonight. So, thinking about those definitions, I want you to keep thinking of teaching as leading. They are absolutely synonymous. You guys have taken that extra effort to earn this degree, so you're even more of a leader than the typical educator. As you consider yourself even more of that leader tonight, I'd like you to now consider how to be an even better leader in education. Throughout this year, I've had the honor to meet so many incredible educators. And through those interactions and through some other fun educational interactions, I've developed a top 10 list of tools to make it happen for you all and myself and everyone in here to become better educators. So number 1 tool, know your purpose and philosophy. Define it, post it, memorize it, not for the sake of recitation or making things look good. Know this in your heart for those really tough days. Most of you are experienced educators. When was the last time you had to write about your educational philosophy? Probably a few years ago. Although I'm not asking you to write a 1-page reflection this evening, I do challenge you to reflect on what you would say if someone were to ask you. You need to know your big why. Sometimes the tough days will outnumber the good days, as all of you know, since you are currently educators. And you will need to be reminded of your purpose on an hourly basis. Be prepared when that parent tells you about how our daughter was molested at the age of 4 by a neighbor. Be prepared when you're given 16 EC kids in a class of 24. Be prepared when a student comes in and hasn't had a bath in 3 days. Be prepared when the lunch schedule is delayed. Be prepared when the internet crashes. Be prepared when a student leaves you a note on your desk that says you made a difference in their life by the fact that you called him by name every day and shook his hand as he entered your class. Be prepared for the emotional exhaustion that hits you on a Friday afternoon after giving all you have to children. Be prepared to know your purpose. Be prepared for the need to remind yourself when others won't. And we all know that all that stuff can just happen in 1 week of school. So you've got to know your purpose clearly in your head and make sure others know what you're about too. Again, whether you're a director of operations, principal, assistant principal, or teacher. Number 2, educate yourself on the politics of education. No longer can a teacher or an administrator just go in a classroom or school and teach, nor can a principal just go in her building and be a principal. There are so many other facets to being an educator now. Yes, we all had a riveting educational law class, but that's not what I'm talking about. How are educational decisions made in the state of North Carolina? Who's in charge of those decisions? Why is it that you can't purchase a class set of iPads with this piece of money? How are textbook adoptions decided on? Why was the North Carolina Teaching Fellows program demolished? What does the future look like with teacher pay? Do we teach Common Core or not? And how will our students actually be assessed? You need to understand all components of your chosen profession. You can't just shut that door and teach or principal. Right now, this is not difficult to do. There are many ways you can stay abreast of this political knowledge through news, social media, and membership. I strongly encourage you to be a voice for education because those that are making the decisions are not educators, and therefore you have a responsibility to be that voice. Number 3, have an intelligent opinion and share it in a respectful manner. Get the word out about teaching or education. Tell everyone you know what a wonderful opportunity it is to serve children. Blog, Facebook status, tweet, dialogue, talk, discuss, brag, market. If you're a teacher, you need to have a web page that sings your passion. If you're a school administrator, you better have something out there on social media, whether it's a school Instagram account, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Everyone you know should understand your passion for children and what your classroom or school stands for. Teaching is the best profession, and everyone needs to know it. Education is awesome. We need to get the good word out there as much as we possibly can. Number 4, appreciate the children you serve. Make no assumptions about children. Appreciate their differences. Look at each child and write down at least one thing you love about that child. Could you do that? If you printed out a class roster, if you're a teacher, could you write down something you love about every child? And for the principals and assistant principals out there, if you were to print out a faculty roster, could you write down something you like about every teacher or staff member in your building? That would be my challenge to you. I hope you can come up with more than one thing. Tell that child or faculty member what you love about him or her. Be grateful for the opportunity to interact with the future every day. Not only is this our chosen profession, but this is a privilege to serve. Love kids. If you don't, quit now and save everyone the headache, but I know all of you guys don't have to worry about that. Ask questions. You can tell whether a man is clever by his answers, but you can tell whether a man is wise by his questions. Ask questions of your kids, ask questions of your colleagues, and for Pete's sake, ask questions during your interviews. It drives me bonkers when an interview candidate has no questions for a committee. So think about some of these questions. To a kid, I really like how you take time to always turn the lights off for us when we go to lunch without my asking. Why is it that you always do that? To a parent, I love how George wants to share stories all the time in class. He must do this at home. What advice do you have for me as I try to channel that energy to a more productive place? To a colleague, why'd you decide to go into teaching? To a committee in an interview, what is it that you love about this school so much? Why do you get up and come to work every day here? Think about those questions and how powerful those answers can be. So as an educator, it's your job to ask the right questions, not have the right answers. Number 6, study your craft, whether that be leadership, teaching elementary children, technology. Study your content. Marry the two together inside your classroom or school. Collaborate with your colleagues and lean on their expertise. One of my favorite things about Wingate is the people that I got to work with during the program. I know you all appreciate that as well. So lean on one another. Ask in your interviews for schools or teaching positions what the expectation is for working with others. Are you expected to be an expert? Get excited about your subject or grade and let everyone feel that excitement. Enthusiasm is contagious. This is reflected at all levels. Whether, again, you work in central office, you're a teacher, assistant principal, principal, or curriculum coordinator. Enthusiasm makes everyone feel better. Be passionate about what you're committing a significant amount of time to. Number 7, Embrace the symbiotic relationship between teacher and student. Don't be limited by your title. Allow the student to become the teacher and the teacher to become the student. Lean on one another to achieve your learning goals. Partner together in your classroom or your school. Collaborate with the students. Set up opportunities for kids to see this partnership in action. If you're a teacher, how can they see you walk the walk for this symbiotic relationship? If you're a school administrator or a central office administrator, what opportunities can you facilitate so others can see how students and teachers work together? Number 8, I'm almost done. I promise you'll get your hoods in a minute. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Model this for your students and for your teachers. Take risks and show them that it's okay to take those risks. Who will change the world one day? Who will cure cancer? A risk taker. Don't you want your children to change the world? Model this for them. How can you change the world? I was asked in the Principal of the Year interview over a year ago, if you could have anything for your current school, what would it be? And I remember being very stumped by that question, because as a principal, I was immediately thinking logistics, like a new building, technology, money, trying to think of that list that we would all consider very closely. So again, I challenge you to think about, how would you really answer that? If you could have anything for your school or your classroom, what would it be? How would you answer it? My answer eventually settled on. I kept going around in my head over and over and over. And I finally said, if I could have anything in the world for my current school, it would be that every staff member loves kids and loves their job. To me, this would fix everything. So this has really challenged me to think this past year, how hard is this really to set up this utopian school? I believe it's possible. My goal is to create that school where every staff member loves kids. So what would your answer be? How impossible is it really? Does it have to be a utopian ideal? So I want you to think about that discomfort and how important it is for you to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I know you can make it happen. And number 9, lead with your heart. Expect the positive and treat your students with love. Teach your students as you would want your own children to be taught. How many of the graduation candidates have personal children of your own? Please raise your hand. Good. So I have 2 kids. I have 2 sons, Liam and Luke. Liam is 8 and he's in 2nd grade, or almost 8. And Luke is a crazy man. He's 16 months old. So my superintendent, Dr. Mark Edwards, as a first-year principal, when he was doing his first walkthrough with me in our school, we went to the first classroom and I was shaking in my heels. I didn't know what to expect. And he came out of the classroom and he said, "Carrie, would you want Liam in that class?" And he really took me aback for a second there. And then I started thinking about it. Would I want my own child in that classroom? So this is what I mean when I'm saying lead with your heart. Every classroom in my building, I always think about, would I want Liam or Luke in that classroom? And if I don't, what am I going to do about it? As the lead learner in that school, what am I going to do about it? So the same thing as you approach your classroom or your school, would you want your own kid there? And what are you going to do about it to make it so that you'd want every kid in that classroom, in any classroom in your school? That's a great challenge, and it's not easily achievable. I'm still not there yet. I'm still working on it. And then my last one. Understand that being an educator is not a job. It's a lifestyle. Most of you probably know that. Think about the most successful educators you know. They live, breathe, and eat education. This is an intimidating statement for some, but it's true. Everywhere you go, everything you are centers on kids. Yeah, it's a double standard, but we all should be pretty used to it by now. Get over it. People may look at you like you have 2 heads if you purchase a bottle of wine. Parents will want to have a conference at the ball field. Kids will run up and hug you at the grocery store. And kids will want to be your Facebook friend. Yet, students everywhere and teachers everywhere will listen to the lessons that you never realized that they were actually listening to. So understand that it's a lifestyle, and everything you do should be about education. So my final thoughts. I'm sure that some of you recognize the names of Dufour and Marzano, maybe have quoted them just a few times. They're actually some pretty smart people, in my opinion. So they said, in a book that I actually read for my own research that has still become one of my favorite books to this day, To become the best leader you can be, you must fall in love with leading, with the purpose you serve, and the people with whom you work in fulfilling that purpose. I'm going to say that one more time because it's so awesome. To become the best leader you can be, you must fall in love with leading, with the purpose you serve, and the people with whom you work in fulfilling that purpose. So as you walk out of this building this evening and walk back into school tomorrow, how are you showing people that you are in love with leading, with the purpose you serve, and with the people with whom you work in fulfilling that purpose? When you're in love with something, you work very hard for it, and it's a whole different feeling. So again, I challenge you tonight to show people how much you are in love with education. Thank you very much for your time and your attention. Congratulations on all of your hard work.
This is the part that gets difficult for me. You will be able to tell instantaneously that I was never a high school principal. However, will the first row of graduates please stand up and come to the stairs? At this time, I call upon Dr. Martha Asti, Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, to come forward to read the names of our graduates as they come forward to receive their hoods or their certificates. The first students will be receiving a Master of Arts in Teaching and Elementary Education on Saturday.
Jennifer Fowler. Deidre Rowe. Angela Stewart.
You didn't know there were going to be calisthenics this evening, did you? The next group of students on Saturday will be receiving their Master of the Arts in Education in Elementary Education, K-6.
Valerie Demby. April Stimson. Jasmine Stowe. Lindsay Taylor.
And will the next row please stand up and come forward? The next group of students on Saturday will be receiving their Master of the Arts in Education in Educational Leadership.
Bridget Best. Shane Farron. Jennifer Flo. Elizabeth Foster. Justin Giersbrook. Arlana Graham. Lisa Hagan. Sarah Huckbody. Jason McGuire. Nicholas Paquette. Josh Schwartzlander. David Thompson. Jeremy Tubb.
Will the next row please come forward? This next group of students came to us already with a master's degree, but have completed a program of study leading to the add-on licensure, allowing them to be principals in North Carolina.
Gerald Jamar Bellamy. Michael McCrae. Renee Mayrose. Shannon Staymeyer.
Will the next row please come forward? The next group of students on Saturday will be receiving the Doctorate of Education in Educational Leadership. They will be hooded by the respective chair of their capstone committee.
Zakiya Backman. Adele Baldwin, Jr. Marcy Beard. Todd Black. Michelle Kane. Daisha Colvin. Giovanna Edwards. Tisha Green. Tammy Hale. Tracy Harrell. Chad Hunt. Hope Cole.
Will the next row please come forward?
Jeffrey Craftston. Farah Martin Santanato. Emily Miles. Charles Mumpower. Allison Plunkett. Donna Thomas. Amber Watkins.
Thank you, Dr. Asti. At the risk of being what's standing between you and the reception, let's start by giving them all a round of applause. Tonight, we are celebrating our students' accomplishments. However, somewhere in the state tonight, there is a school-age girl who, instead of celebrating her accomplishments, is crying because she doesn't look like the successful people in the world. Somewhere tonight, there is a school-age boy who, instead of celebrating his accomplishments, is being told to look down on others to make himself feel better about himself. These children live in a world where children die from disease because an actress convinced their parents not to vaccinate their children. These children live in a world where some people still believe that some children cannot succeed in school and life. This is not what you expected me to say tonight, but it illustrates what is truly important tonight. Nelson Mandela, a black South African born and politically imprisoned under apartheid, who became president of South Africa, stated so eloquently, "Education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world." We are proud of our graduates. We are proud of your accomplishments, but we are even more hopeful for what you will do for the world tomorrow and the next day. It is appropriate that tonight we heard from Dr. Tolbert. She is one example of what you are prepared to do next. Because of the education you have worked so hard to achieve. And I have to apologize to her. We did not serve Dr. Tolbert as well as we have served you, the new graduates. We improve our programs and the quality of education each year and with each cohort. Carrie, if you want to come back and work on another doctorate, we would be proud to have you back in our program. Oh, come on. Being a continuous student can be a lifestyle choice. In a world with so many things that are wrong, you as teachers, school leaders, and district leaders have the power to make the changes that are needed. The faculty you see here tonight, including a few that I see sitting out in the audience, have worked to empower you to be the people who can make a difference. When I hear our doctoral students talk about how they ask questions of vendors they never thought to ask before, as I hear our master's students discuss viewpoints they never knew to consider before, as I hear all our students want to know sources and facts instead of opinions, misconceptions, and folklore, I am proud of what we do at Wingate, and I am proud of you. About 1,000 years ago, the tradition we continue tonight began with a group of people who believed that we needed to make the world better. In those universities began our tradition of apprenticeship to a knowledgeable professor. They began the tradition of bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees. One of my favorite quotes from the book they cherish most is, I'm a little rusty, Vas estis lus mundi non potest civitas abscondi supra montem posita neque ascendunt lucernam et ponunt sub modio sed super candelabrum ut luceat omnibus q in domo sunt. What, you don't understand? Not even our grads? Dr. Compton, weren't you supposed to teach this in your classes? And look at Dr. Supernaw. They're smiling since he is one of the few people in the room who knows the language that I just spoke. I got carried away and used the language of our academic ancestors. Let's try this again. You might recognize the verse better as, you are the light of the world. A city seated on a mountain cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but upon a candlestick, that it may shine to all that are in the house. The education you have received, as evidenced by the degree that will be bestowed on Saturday, and the hoods you now have, has given you the power to be the candle that is not to be hid under a bushel. Collectively, with hundreds of other graduates of our graduate education program at Wingate, we have prepared you to be the city on a mountain. We prepare you not just for your benefit, but for the hundreds of children who you will teach in your classroom, the thousands that will attend the school you lead, the tens of thousands who will attend the schools in the districts you will provide leadership in. You are the professionals who will provide the education that is the most powerful weapon in changing the world. The light that dispels the dark of ignorance, avarice, envy, and prejudice. The education that makes that girl who doesn't look like others into the National Security Advisor or Secretary of State. The knowledge that empowers the little boy to achieve and take pride in his achievements instead of tear down and blame. The candles that are our education graduates are becoming a fire. Currently, 6 superintendents across 3 states, district, regional, and state principals of the year, Teacher of the Year of a CMS learning community, and another for the state. So many district leaders across North Carolina and some in South Carolina that I haven't even counted. All graduates of Wingate with the motto, faith, knowledge, and service. You have the skills, the knowledge, and the disposition to keep that girl or any child from spending another night crying and with self-loathing brought on by others. You have the power to help shape that boy's or any other child's thinking so that they work to affirm themselves in positive ways instead of bringing others down. Make us proud and be the leaders, either teachers or administrators, that we have prepared you to be. The most common Nelson Mandela quote I hear is something that he never said. All of you that have had me in class shouldn't be surprised. I make a habit of finding things like that so that I can dispel the darkness that is the untruth. The quote is actually a poem, and people would like Mandela to have said it, but since he didn't, I will attribute it to the real author. Her name is Marianne Williamson, a self-described unwed Jewish mother born in Texas, a much different visual than a divorced African man born in apartheid-ridden South Africa. But all of you knew to check the facts before believing the hype, because you are Wingate grads. I will repeat her words. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. You are born to manifest the glory of God that is within you. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Go out and do what we have prepared you to do. Change the world one child at a time if needed. Don't ever let the darkness of arrogance, greed, selfishness, and ignorance hide the light you have the power to shine. In this world, make your professors proud of what you have done with the gifts we work so hard to bestow upon you.